Hello everyone, this is Lindsay, and today I'm going to show you a little bit of my Bible art journaling, and I'm going to do something similar to this fox here that was featured on Illustrated Faith's Instagram last Sunday. I had a lot of people ask how I did that little fox there. So today we're working in James, and I'm working in between two different pages here, one in 1 Peter and one in James. You can see here there's a little bit of ghosting and crinkling on this page from the page that I had done in 1 Peter. I'm going to show you how we'll work around that. I'm going to start with some Nina Bright White cardstock, 65 pounds, and I'm going to prep it with some Liquitex clear gesso. And I'm going to go ahead and add 2 coats of this, really light coats, and then I'm going to dry in between each coat of this. And this is a grainy gesso, and I know a lot of people don't like that, and I'm going to show you how I work around that. This is just the gesso that I've been able to get a hold of. So we're going to go ahead and take this sanding block, and it's either a 150 or a 220 grit sanding block, and I'm lightly sanding over that paper after I've dried the gesso. I have done this on a Bible page, and it's fine as long as you do it really, really lightly. We're going to be using this stamp set from Avery Elle, and it's the More Stories stamp set. And I just adore these little critters here. We're going to be using some Tim Holtz Distress ink, and I'm using the Shabby Shutters, Mowed Lawn, and Cracked Pistachio. We're going to create a little bit of a grass down at the bottom of this here for the hedgehog to stand on. So I'm starting with the lightest color, which is Shabby Shutters. And then I'm going to blend in some of that Mowed Lawn, and then I'll go over the top of that with the cracked pistachio. You don't need to do this with all 3 colors. I just have them. I like the effect that it has when you blend them together. The great thing about the distress inks is they blend really well with each other, so you get kind of this gradient effect when you blend the colors. I'm just going to go ahead and finish up that grass there. Next, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the hedgehog, and this is the key to this technique. So I'm going to stamp him in this distressed ink, and it's the old paper, which is a really light color. And distress ink reacts to water. So once I go over that with water, it's going to blur out that line that I've stamped him with. Now I'm going to go ahead and take distressed ink in Scattered Straw and Gathered Twigs. And I have this water brush that I got with my gelato set. I also have a water brush that you can get off of Amazon. I'll go ahead and link that down below. And so I'm just smush some of that scattered straw onto my craft mat here. And then I'm just going to go in and paint it into his tummy there, just like watercolor. And as I paint it in, I'm going slightly over that stamped line, and it's just going to basically erase that stamped line. And I'm just going to I'm going to go ahead and dry in between coats, and that way I can go back in and darken the shadowed areas around his fur and then the top of his head there. And the water does reactivate that layer that's underneath, but you are still able to get a little bit of a darker tone by drying it in between each layer. So go ahead and dry that again before I add my next color. Now I'm going to go in with Gathered Twigs. And this is kind of a deep brown color. And you want to lay down the color first wherever you want it darkest. So I'm going to lay it down at the bottom of this little hedgehog here, and then I'm going to go along the right-hand side. So the light is coming from the top left-hand side. So he'll be a little bit darker on the right side and then lighter as you go to the left side. As you can see, I'm not picking up a whole bunch more color. I'm just kind of moving around the color that I had already laid down, and then I can go back in and pick up a little bit more to darken up those shadowed areas on the right-hand side. I'm just going to keep kind of fussing with it, back and forth, darkening up those edges, and again, slightly going over that stamped line to blur it. And now I'm going to go in for his fur lines, and I'm going to smush out some pumice stone, and I'm going to mix it together with the Gathered Twigs just to create kind of a darker color, and then I'm going to go in and flick that in there to create little fur lines. And with this color, I'm going to slightly go outside of the stamped image to create kind of a fur around the outside. And then where the tummy meets his brown fur, there'll be some little flicks of this mixed up color here. And there's nothing perfect about this. I'm just kind of going in and drawing some little teeny tiny little lines. And then I will dry this layer, and you can always go in and add more layers and kind of build it up from there. Now I'm going to go in with this light pink color, which is the Victorian Velvet, and this is just for the little teeny spot inside of his ear. Really simple there. Now I'm going to take these leaves from that same stamp set, and I'm going to stamp these in 3 different colors. I'm going to use Fired Brick, Spiced Marmalade, and Mowed Lawn. And these I'm going to go ahead and stamp them in those colors. I'm going to just go and add these sporadically through there. I just love that it's fall, so I wanted to do a fall page here. So I'm adding these really pretty fall colors. Just about done there, and I probably overdid the leaves, but they're just super cute, so I did plenty of those. And now I'm going to take that same water brush, and I'm not adding any color, I'm just touching the edge where the stamped color is and then dragging it into the center of the leaf. So you kind of have a dark edge around the outside of the leaf and then a light wash of color on the inside of the leaf. And I'm just barely touching the color lines because you can completely just decimate the stamp if you go in there with too much water. So I'm not using a whole lot of water at all and just barely dragging that color around. And I'm making sure to wipe off my brush in between the colors. Finish up these green leaves here. And then now I'm going to take a micron pen. I believe this is either 0.01 or 0.005. And I'm going to draw in his nose and his eye. Now that everything's dried, I did dry everything before I went in with that pen. I'm going to dry it again just so that nothing smears. Now I've created these masks, and what I've done is I've stamped these images on some clear contact paper, and then I've fussy cut out around them. And then I'm going to cover up all those images that I've colored in, and that way I can go in and do the background without messing up those stamped images. Because I used distress ink and it does react to water, if I went in there with this next step, it would just smudge all out and the water would react with it. So I'm taking a gelato in the color Cotton Candy, and I'm going to create a mist. So I've rubbed it into the bottom of this cup. I'm going to pour in some water. And then I'm going to mix that color up, and I'm going to try to dissolve as many of the clumps as I can. Can't quite get all of them, but I'm just going to kind of stir it and stir it and stir it until it's as blended as possible in there. And then I'll go ahead and pour that into this mini mister that I have. And I'm going to create this kind of spray paint. Put the cap back on here. And then I'll go ahead and spray it off onto another page just to kind of get that color flowing up in there. And it's hard to see on here, but it's a real pale sky blue color. So I'm going to cover up the grass part of the image, and then I'm going to spray over the top of that with that Cotton Candy gelato. And there is a little bit of bleeding from those colors that I had colored before, just where they stick out around my mask, but not too bad. So I'm going to go ahead and dry that. And then I'm going to add a little bit more, so I'm going to create a layered effect here by drying in between the layers. And then I'm going to dry it again. And I'm not spraying a whole lot on there. It's just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and take some tweezers here and pull up those masks. And I'm going to save these masks. So I went ahead and put them back on their paper backings and then put them in with the stamp set. That way I can use them in the future and I don't have to recut them out. So now here I am in the Bible. I've gone ahead and prepped my page with 2 layers of that clear gesso and then sanded it just like I did with the cardstock. And now I'm going to go ahead and create some grass at the bottom here. And I'm just using the mode lawn for that. Just real light. There is some ghosting on the back of this page from that page that I had done before. And so by adding this little bit of color, kind of covers that up and is going to help that stamped image on the cardstock blend in with this page a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and add this grass, and then I'll go in with Salty Ocean Distress ink and blend it into the top to create kind of a sky scene. I don't think I told you we're working here in James chapter 4 verse 8, which says, "Draw near to God and he will draw near to you." And I just used the first part of that verse there. And I'm just being careful as I blend this in because that page is textured from having been gessoed on the other side, and I glued in that washi tape on the other side, so it kind of puckered the page where that glue was. So I'm just being really, really careful as I blend this in there. And these blend really nicely together. When you first put it on there, it may look a little splotchy, but as it dries, it evens and blends out. It doesn't look as bad. And it's really easy to do over the top of that gessoed page. And the nice thing is, since it was gessoed, it doesn't bleed through onto the other side. I'm just going in and adding some color in the margin there just to complete the page. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off this insert. So I have printed off the words on and then traced them onto this vellum, and then I used my Silhouette Cameo to cut out that little green frame, and it's on sticky backed cardstock. And I'm using my Zig 2-way glue pen to add a thin line of glue just to the edges, and I'll stick down that vellum piece. And with vellum, you can see glues and tapes and things like that that you put on the back, and that's why I'm using that frame also. And that'll cover up where I put the glue. I'm just taking a block there to hold it down while it dries, and it dries pretty quickly. I'm going to take the backing off of this cardstock piece, and I'm going to lay that over the top, and that's just going to frame in my verse there. And then I'm going to take a micron pen, and I'm going to write in the verse, which is James 4:8. And I'm just making sure I got that nice and dark so it matches that lettering that's already on the vellum there. So that little piece is done. So I'm going to go ahead and add it into my Bible. And I'm just going to use some permanent dry adhesive tape that comes in a roll here. And I'm just going to apply plenty of that to this piece because I want it to stick in there and not come out and not tear my page. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick that in there, just lining it up. And I'm trying not to cover the address at the top there. You can see it's all stuck in there and covers up where the texture and the ghosting was from the other page. And then I decided to go ahead and add in some more leaves. So I'm going to take those same colors, the Fire brick, spiced marmalade, and mowed lawn. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp some more leaves all over the page. And this distress ink, when it's blended out with water, you can see through it. So in my Bible, I don't like to cover the words to where I couldn't read it. So I'm really careful about the types of things that I put in there over the top of the words. So you can see I've gone ahead and stamped those all over. And again, I'm going to take that water brush. And if you get too much, then you can just dab it with a paper towel and it'll draw it up. As long as you catch it while it's still wet, it'll pull that color back up. And that's it. That's the finished page. You can see I've got that little insert there. It's a great way to cover up if you had any bleed through or something like that on the back. So thanks for joining me. Until next time.